Hi, Doug Andrew again. In this IUL Insiders training, I think it's critically important for you as an advisor to understand how to build your case to help the client realize that there are three key elements of what we call a prudent investment. And when they understand the priority, how important these are, then you can begin to eliminate other investments that most people think they want to put their money into, and why a maximum funded IUL is one of the best investments or places to put money to pass those tests: the liquidity, safety, predictable rates of return, and then I like tax-free. That's icing on the cake. So let me teach you in this episode how you can help people understand this. And I've used the acronym LASER, L-A-S-E-R, for years because I can use it with like laser focus. But LASER is an acronym that stands for liquid assets, safely earning returns. It stands for liquidity is the L. And when I started writing, L for liquidity and S on the board for safety and then RR for rate of return. And I started going, well, golly, that's like, I pronounced it laser. And I go, oh, let's just call it LASER. So I had to come up with an acronym that spelled LASER, liquid assets, safely earning returns. And hence, that's the name of what I call a max funded insurance contract is the LASER fund, because it passes the liquidity, safety, rate of return test with flying colors. So I would implore you to refer to chapter 4 of the LASER fund at the left brain side, because it explains what does LASER stand for. And so throughout the chapter, I'm talking about the key elements of a prudent investment where most people want to put money to make sure that they don't get disappointed or lose money or they didn't understand some of the features. A lot of people don't think about this. Once you understand what we call the LASER test, you can take any investment, annuities, CDs, mutual funds, real estate, and put it through the LASER test and assign a score. Now, I like scorecards on a scale of 1 to 10. And so a perfect LASER score based upon liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax advantages would be 40. Now, there is no investment that exists that I know of that passes the LASER score with a perfect 40. But the reason why I like the LASER fund and why I call it the LASER fund is because it passes the LASER test with flying colors, dwarfing most other places where people put their money. Most places, as you're going to learn here, maybe score 18, 20, 22 out of 40 at the best. Whereas a maximum funded indexed universal life insurance policy, if it's structured correctly and funded properly, it will score 35, 36. Nothing else comes close. So pay attention as I go through these key elements of a prudent investment, because when you help clients understand why these are in the order they are, then they will realize the best choice to invest money to pass the LASER test is in a max funded insurance contract. It becomes a no-brainer. They arrive at that conclusion by themselves once you've educated them. See, education is key. So when we look at them in order, I have learned from the School of Hard Knocks, the most important feature is liquidity. The ability to access my money when I need it with an electronic funds transfer or phone call. I don't want to incur penalties or have to pay tax or something like that. So liquidity is number one. Whenever I have gotten into trouble with money, it's because I lacked liquidity. Now, number 2 on the list is safety. And we've talked about safety, not only safety of the institution, but safety of your principal. Whatever I set aside, $100,000, $10,000, $1,000 a month, it doesn't matter. I don't want to jeopardize my principal. I want to have safety of principal. Now, under indexing, it is so awesome because any year I make money, that becomes newly protected principal. I don't lose in the future money I've made in the past due to market volatility. We've talked about lock in and reset. That's a concept that many financial advisors don't understand. So when we look at safety, it's safety of institutions. We've talked about ratings, but also safety of principal using indexing. That's number 2. Some people think it's number 1. No, it actually comes after liquidity. Now, this is the one, a rate of return, that a lot of people sort of put up here. Ooh, I want the money. I want to make the most money. Well, the higher the return you go after, the higher the risk. You give up some of that. You give up some of the safety when you go for high rates of return. So really, rate of return is not the most important. Liquidity is. Safety is number 2. Rate of return is number 3. A lot of people make the mistake early in life of reversing the order until they learn better, because they lose their job. They get sick. Something happens and they don't have liquidity. All their money is tied up in their real estate or stocks or their IRAs or 401ks. And if they go tap into it, the market's crashed. And they go, ooh, I don't want to take out my money when it's worth that. Ooh, I'm going to trigger tax. The IRS is going to penalize me 10%. See, they realize it's not as liquid as they thought it was. So you want to have liquidity, number 1. Number 2, safety. Number 3 is rate of return, in that order. Now, the 4th benefit is sort of like icing on the cake. I like tax benefits. And you'll learn in other episodes, I don't want just tax deferred. I want totally tax free. And there's only a few places to put money in this country that are totally tax free. They accumulate your money tax free, and when you take it out, it stays tax free, including all the gain. But there's only one that when you ultimately die, it blossoms in value and transfers income tax free. And that's what? A maximum funded life insurance contract. So tax benefits are like icing on the cake. I like to have my cake and eat it too. So I like all of those features, but it's in that order. So I like to have my cake and eat it too. So I want all of the above in the proper ranking. So when we look at liquidity again, let's summarize. Liquidity is the ability to access your money when you need it, but I prefer that we access that money tax free. Now, the second is what? Safety. You got to memorize these, but it's easy because I've given you an acronym, LASER. So safety of principal, preserve your principal and protect it from loss. And also choose institutions that pass those safety scores and what have you. What's 3? R, okay, that's rate of return. So you want to have a competitive rate of return that historically has beaten inflation. Now, you can't be rowing upstream at the rate of 1 or 2 miles an hour in a bank, 1 or 2% interest, and have the current of inflation coming down at 3, 4, 5, 6%. You're going where? Backwards. So you have to have a rate of return, number 1, that equals or is greater than the rate of inflation. But also, if you're using leverage, OPM, if I am using other people's money and I'm paying 1 or 2% or whatever, I want to make sure the rate of return is equal or greater than the cost. That's why we have zero wash loans. It doesn't cost you anything. Or you have participating loans where you're making more than the cost of the loan, and that's smart. So that's a rate of return, and when you analyze those 3 strengths, these are dynamic. I'm going to share in another episode that what you do is help your clients eliminate the biggest dangers they face in life: taxes, inflation, and market volatility. Then you help your clients seize the greatest opportunities that eliminate those dangers. So you convert to tax-free, okay? You link your returns to the things that inflate, so inflation helps you instead of hinders you. And you protect from market volatility by using indexing. You get to participate when the market goes up. You do not lose when the market goes down, okay? And so that's what I'm doing, is seizing the greatest opportunities. But then I want to harness the greatest strengths. What are the greatest strengths? I just gave them to you. Liquidity, safety, rate of return. I want to make sure where I put my money, it passes the laser test. You got it? So I've taught you in previous episodes, there's 3 types of income subject to income tax. Earned, passive, and portfolio income. Salaries, wages, rents, leases, interest, and dividends. If you have income during retirement, okay, that does not fall under the definition of those 3, There's nowhere on a 1040 tax return to put it. It's that cut and dry. Money out of an insurance policy is tax-free when you take it out as a loan because it does not fall under those three definitions. Okay. Now, whenever I show an audience, or in all of the books I've written, clear back to my first book in the year 2000, I use this risk-return paradigm. And so I list here 16 general categories of investments ranked from highest risk to lowest risk. Okay, from commodities and business ventures down to equity in your house, annuities, and so forth. And once they see that, then most people go, ooh, okay, well, I have some money in number 4. They start looking at the chart and they go, I wonder where he's going with this. I'm going to apply the liquidity, safety, and rate of return test. Watch. When I apply the liquidity test, this many do not pass the liquidity test, okay? We've got the business ventures, limited partnerships, okay, number 4 over here, raw land. We've got number 7, investment real estate. We've got number 16, equity in your house. Oh yeah, I tell stories of how I thought I had the world by the tail because I built a house for $150,000, and the day I moved in, it was worth $305,000. The mistake I made is I thought I had made 150 grand. That 150,000 meant absolutely nothing if I couldn't get to it when I needed it. And a few years later, I had 3 things happen to me that I never dreamed would happen simultaneously. And I found myself without an income for 9 months. And the story's in my book, it's on my YouTube channel. But just to cut to the chase, I had to sell that house. And I thought I had 150 grand in there. And I learned that when there's greater supply of homes on the market than there is demand, you have to drop the value of your home down. And I had to drop the sales price down from 305,000 down to 295, 285, 275, 265, 225. See, that equity in my home meant absolutely nothing because it was not liquid. I could not get to it. Real estate equity does not pass the liquidity test. It fails it miserably when real estate goes down. So when you understand liquidity, this many do not pass the liquidity test. Oh, let's go to safety. Oh, now we have this many more that do not pass the safety test. You can go through, I won't take time right now, but you can read it in my books. But you can see here that several more investments, clear down here until you get to number 10, or the first 9, do not pass the safety test. You can lose money if you have your money in those instruments. So they don't pass the safety test. Equity in your house, your real estate? Oh no, you can lose principal. My house went down in value in 2008 from $1.5 million down to $1.1 million. That's not safety of principal, but I didn't have my money in the house. I had it over in my insurance policy. That's another story. But see, that's many do not pass the liquidity and safety test. Let's go to the third one, rate of return. You have to get a rate of return of what? Equal or greater than the inflation rate or the cost of the funds. So as you look at this chart here, this many more do not pass the rate of return test. Ooh, I'm left with 3 possible alternatives that may pass the liquidity, safety, and rate of return test. Number 10, number 12, number 15. What's number 10? Let's see. Number 10 is mutual funds. Wait a minute. Oh, not most mutual funds, no. But there maybe is a handful of mutual funds out there that would pass the liquidity test because you can sell your stocks, you can sell your mutual fund shares usually really fast. Safety, they may have some of the blue chip stocks in it or whatever, so maybe barely pass the safety test. Rate of return, most mutual funds, if you bought and held, you should average about 9%. The fact of the matter is most people only earn about 3.5 or 4, but you know, if inflation's 3, it's a little bit better than inflation. So yeah, some mutual funds may pass the laser test. But what's number 12 and number 15? Number 12 is a maximum funded insurance contract. Ooh, what's that? It's a laser fund because it passes the laser test. What's number 15? Oh, annuities. Maybe some annuities may pass the liquidity test. Some, you will incur huge fees in the first 10 years if you liquidate it, but some annuities, you can access money or 1/10 of it. So they may pass the liquidity test with an 18, 20, 22 score out of 40. When we talk about safety, most annuities are issued by what? Legal reserve insurance companies. Most pensions that school teachers take and police officers are sort of annuities. And so they're deemed safe. It does pass the safety test. Rate of return, a lot of annuities I would never touch. But indexed annuities that use the same concept, they don't perform as well as maximum funded indexed universal life. Did you hear that? What? Wait, I thought life insurance had costs that annuities didn't. No, annuities have some hidden costs that insurance doesn't. But with the same insurance company, I can have an indexed universal life that has caps of 12 or 15%, where the annuity has caps of 6 or 7. When you read the Laser Fund book, you'll begin to understand why I can outperform an annuity every time with the same insurance company by using a maximum funded indexed universal life. And it's because I'm able to accumulate it totally tax-free and take out the money tax-free. So annuities, okay. But which one comes through with flying colors? Number 12. What's that? What I'm teaching you about. It's a maximum funded tax advantaged indexed universal life. Now, do you know why I call it the Laser Fund? Because it passes the laser test with flying colors. Once you understand this, okay, and you help people, when they read the book, they should learn and understand what you're talking about. But we made it easy for you. Are you ready? We have brochures for those who engage with IUL insiders. And it explains this in 4 8.5 by 11 illustrations here. So what happens is when you talk about the laser test, liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax benefits in the proper order, then these are the pillars. Right on the front of the book are these pillars. So this is on a scale of 1 to 10. This is liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax benefits. Those are the 4 pillars that we're talking about. And so this brochure, for those who engage with us, you can use this, and this talks about liquidity, safety, rate of return. But wait a minute, they're not even in this illustration. Well, that's because we are showing them what a maximum funded IUL scores. So we look at this. Oh my heavens, I'm 68 years old. I have to use glasses sometimes here. Oh, based on liquidity, I can access my money inside of an insurance contract with an electronic funds transfer phone call. I put it at a score of 8. Only maybe the first year or two, if you put in 100 or 200,000, if you're trying to maximize rate of return down the road, if you put in 100, maybe you only have liquidity of 70 or 80,000. Once you put 500,000 in, you can go grab 500,000. So I don't give it a perfect 10. I put 8. Now, you go to safety. A maximum funded indexed universal life insurance contract, we put at a 9. I mean, I don't know of anything else that is as safe as putting your money in a legal reserve insurance company that would be the last domino to fall if the entire economic system collapsed. Real estate would be dropping down to 10 or 20% of what it was worth. Banks would be closing again. You'd have so much warning to get your money out of one of these insurance contracts. But if you did, where would you put it? If the American dollar is worthless, you better be able to convert to growing carrots in your backyard. So as far as safety, what most people define as safety of the institution, safety of principle, to never lose in the future money you made in the past due to market volatility, it's a 9. It's almost perfect. Rate of return. Now, rate of return is depending upon, are you looking at just the first year? Because you're not going to get a great rate of return into a bucket that's only 20% funded, even at the maximum TAMRA level. Just like the metaphor that we give in the book of the 5-story building. You're not going to make a lot of money or a great rate of return if you have a 5-story building and you've only leased out 1 floor. So likewise, when you have to spread out your funding over 5 years, it's like filling up a 5-story office building. It's only when you get the building maybe 60% full, 3 floors full, now you've covered all your costs, and it's the 4th and 5th floor being leased out. When the insurance contract is funded from 60 to 80, from 80 to 100% in the 4th and 5th year, man, it zings thereafter. The rate of return just gets better and better and better, retroactive back to day one, as we've been teaching you. But in the first year or two, maybe people say, well, the rate of return isn't all that great. We assign the rate of return based on how it's structured between 6, 7, or 8. If you do it correctly, it should score 8 out of a possible 10 for rate of return. And frankly, I think it scores 9 or 10 because I've been earning sometimes 16 and 25% by using performance factors and so forth. But I'm trying to be super conservative here on this score. The last one is tax advantages. Now, where would you put the laser fund? Let's see, I've been saying how many times in this series that's the only vehicle in the Internal Revenue Code that allows you to accumulate access and transfer your money tax-free, and when you die it blossoms and transfers tax-free. When I tell people that, I say, what would you call that? And they go, a miracle. The dream solution. So I do give it a perfect 10. How much more perfect can you get than totally tax-free? Okay? And so when you add up all those scores, what do you get for a laser score? The laser score is going to come in between, 33, 34, 35, 36 out of a possible 40. Nothing else comes close. In fact, when we teach a full day event, and those of you who engage with IUL Insiders for the marketing piece, we have online master classes, and we do these live, but they're called Retire by Design. And the audience gets this workbook, either online PDF or they get the actual physical workbook when we've taught these. We've taught these thousands of times. And inside this, we have these brochures. And there is one point that you're going to learn about here that we show people they ought to diversify. You shouldn't put all your money into a max funded insurance contract, but probably up to 60% of your retirement income, I think, ought to come from the tax-free bucket. And so sometimes people say, well, I want a guarantee. So I say, well, anywhere between 0 to maybe 80% of your money could come from a guaranteed bucket. Social Security, a pension, but that might be an indexed annuity. So in the appendix, we have the same thing here. We have this brochure that talks about indexed annuities. There's only a handful that I would put my money into, and we show the laser score. So on liquidity, it's only 3. On safety, it's a 9. Rate of return, between 3 and 5, depending upon which annuity you might look at. Tax advantages, only a 4 or 6. Why? Because it's only tax deferred. Annuities are not totally tax-free. So when you add up an annuity, it might score 18 or 20 or 22. Once you understand how to explain the laser test to a prospective client and they understand the importance, and then you show them how to properly structure your maximum funded IUL, it'll be a no-brainer. Which one do you want? The one that scores 15? You want the one that scores 18? The one that scores 22? Or would you like the one that scores 35 out of 40? They go, oh, I want that one. Okay? It's the maximum funded IUL. Once they get educated, now listen to this. If you just sell people something they already want, that's just salesmanship. When you educate people about this, once they know something they didn't know before, they want something they didn't know they wanted before. So once you educate them on the laser test and you show them all kinds of alternatives, I assure you, you ask them which one do they want for their serious cash? What do you even ask for? I want the one that scores 35 out of 40, not the one that scores 20. But if they walked in and you started criticizing their annuity or their 401k or their mutual fund, they're going to get defensive. You would just teach them true principles. They govern themselves. And once they see the importance of liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax benefits, it's a no-brainer.